The chandeliers in the Gilded Spoon dripped crystal tears, each one catching the light and scattering it across the opulent dining room. Soft jazz hummed from a hidden speaker, and the clink of silverware against fine china was a gentle symphony. It was the kind of place where hushed tones were the norm, where fortunes were made and lost over a single meal, and where everyone from the most seasoned waiter to the newest busboy walked on eggshells when he was in the room, Mr. Sterling Thorne. The name itself was a whisper of dread among the staff. He was a billionaire, a titan of industry, and a man whose wealth seemed to have corroded any semblance of human decency. His eyes, sharp and cold, could cut through you faster than any executive decision. His voice, a low rumble, often carried the weight of a thinly veiled threat. He dined at the Gilded Spoon every Tuesday, same table, same time, and left a trail of emotional wreckage in his wake. I'd been a waitress for 10 years. 4 of those at the Gilded Spoon. I'd seen it all. Demanding customers, spilled wine, proposals gone wrong. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared you for Mr. Thorne. He was an emotional black hole, sucking the joy out of the room. You just served him. You tried not to make eye contact. And you prayed to whatever deity would listen that your shift would end quickly. That Tuesday started like any other. The morning rush was chaotic but manageable. By early afternoon, the restaurant had settled into a comfortable lull, and I was looking forward to a quiet evening. Then the reservation list popped up, and there it was. Mr. S. Thorne, 7 p.m., table 7. A collective sigh went through the kitchen. The air, already thick with the smell of roasting meats and expensive spices, suddenly felt heavy. All right, team. Chef Antoine, a man whose booming laugh usually filled the kitchen, said in a surprisingly quiet voice, "Mr. Thorne tonight. Double-check everything. No mistakes." Our newest waitress, Lily, had only been with us for 2 weeks. She was a breath of fresh air, all bright eyes and an infectious, optimistic smile. She was studying literature at the local university, working to pay her way. And she still had that hopeful sparkle in her eyes that years of dealing with the public hadn't yet dulled. She was assigned to table 5, just a few feet from Mr. Thorne's usual spot. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I knew what was coming. As 7 p.m. approached, the restaurant was a beehive of activity. I checked my uniform, made sure my hair was neat, and took a deep breath. Just get through it. That was the mantra. Precisely at 7 p.m., the doors swung open. And there he was, Mr. Thorne. He wasn't exceptionally tall, but he carried himself with an arrogance that made him seem to tower over everyone. His tailored suit looked expensive, almost armor-like, and his silver hair was impeccably coiffed. His eyes scanned the room, a predator surveying his territory. And then he made his way to table 7. I watched as Lily, oblivious to the subtle shift in the restaurant's atmosphere, approached his table with her usual friendly smile. My heart sank. "Good evening, sir, and welcome to the Gilded Spoon," she said, her voice clear and cheerful. "My name is Lily, and I'll be your server this evening. Can I get you something to drink while you look over the menu?" Mr. Thorne didn't even look up from the menu. He just grunted. "Water, still. And don't bother with the pleasantries. Just take my order." Lily's smile faltered for a second, a flicker of surprise in her eyes, but she recovered quickly. "Of course, sir." Right away, she returned with his water, placing it carefully on the table. "Are you ready to order, sir?" He slammed the menu shut, a sharp sound that echoed in the otherwise quiet room. "I'll have the Wagyu steak, medium rare, and make sure it's perfect. I don't tolerate mediocrity." "Yes, sir," Lily said, her voice still polite, though I could see a slight tension in her shoulders. "And for your sides, just the asparagus. And it better not be limp." He finally looked at her, his gaze sharp and dismissive. "You understand?" Lily met his gaze, her chin lifting almost imperceptibly. "I understand, sir. I'll make sure everything is to your satisfaction." I watched this exchange from a distance, my hands gripping a tray a little too tightly. Poor Lily, she had no idea what she was in for. This was just the warm-up act. The kitchen staff worked with a heightened sense of urgency on Mr. Thorne's order. Chef Antoine personally oversaw the steak, turning it with the precision of a surgeon. The asparagus was blanched to perfection, a vibrant green. When the plate was ready, I saw Lily take a deep breath before carrying it out. It was a beautiful presentation, a work of art on a plate. She placed it before Mr. Thorne with grace. He stared at it, a long, critical stare that made the seconds stretch into an eternity. He picked up his knife and fork, cut a piece of the steak, and slowly chewed. His expression remained unreadable. Then he pushed the plate slightly away. "This is cold." My blood ran cold. Cold. I knew that steak was piping hot when it left the kitchen. Chef Antoine was meticulous. Lily's eyes widened slightly. "I'm so sorry, sir. I assure you it was hot when it left the kitchen." "Perhaps the plate? Are you suggesting I'm lying?" His voice was low, dangerous. "No, sir, not at all," Lily quickly replied, though her voice held a hint of steel. "I'm simply stating a fact. But if it's not to your liking, I can have a fresh one prepared for you immediately." "No," he said, a dismissive wave of his hand. "The moment is ruined. Just bring me the check." Lily stood there for a moment, her face a mask of polite professionalism, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. She nodded and walked away to retrieve the check. I watched her go, my heart aching for her. This was the exact reason why everyone feared him. He didn't just complain about the food. He broke your spirit. I saw her hand him the check, her posture still perfectly straight. He scribbled something on the slip, slapped it down on the table, and rose without a word, leaving a stingy 5% tip. As he walked past me, he didn't even acknowledge my presence, his eyes fixed straight ahead. I went over to Lily as soon as he was out the door. "Lily, are you okay?" She let out a shaky breath, her cheerful demeanor finally cracking. "He said it was cold." "It wasn't." I checked. Her voice was small. "And the tip." "Don't worry about him," I said, putting a hand on her arm. "He does that. It's not you. It's him. He's just a miserable person." She looked up, her eyes glistening. "But I tried so hard." "I know you did," I said, giving her arm a comforting squeeze. "And you did a wonderful job. He just likes to make people feel small." That should have been the end of it. Another Tuesday, another Mr. Thorne incident. But something was different this time. Lily, despite her initial sadness, didn't seem to completely deflate like the rest of us usually did. There was a spark in her eyes, a quiet determination I hadn't seen before. The next Tuesday, the dreaded name appeared again. Mr. S. Thorne, 7 p.m., table 7. The usual gloom descended. Lily walked into the kitchen, her expression resolute. "I'd like to serve Mr. Thorne tonight," she announced. Chef Antoine stopped chopping, his knife hovering over a perfectly roasted chicken. The other waiters exchanged shocked glances. "Lily, are you sure?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "After last week, I can take him." She shook her head. "No, I need to do this. I don't understand why he acts like that, and I want to try to understand. Or at least, not let him make me feel like that again." I admired her courage, even if I thought it was a little foolhardy. "All right, Lily," Chef Antoine said, a glimmer of respect in his eyes. "Be careful." When Mr. Thorne arrived, Lily was waiting. She greeted him with the same polite professionalism, but there was a subtle shift. Her smile was still there. But it was less a hopeful plea for approval and more a statement of self-possession. He ordered the same thing, Wagyu steak, medium rare, with asparagus. This time, however, Lily paused. "Sir, if you don't mind me asking," she said. Her voice, even last week you mentioned the steak was cold. "Is there a particular temperature you prefer? We can certainly accommodate any specific request to ensure your satisfaction." Mr. Thorne looked up, a flicker of surprise in his cold eyes. He probably expected her to just take the order and scurry away. "Medium rare is medium rare," he grunted, a hint of annoyance in his tone. "Just make sure it's hot this time." "Understood, sir," Lily replied, unflappable. "I'll ensure it's served immediately after it's cooked to preserve its warmth." When his steak was prepared, Lily didn't just carry it out. She walked with a purpose, almost a challenge in her stride. She placed it before him, her eyes meeting his. He cut into it, took a bite, and I braced myself for the complaint. But he just chewed, slowly, deliberately. He ate the entire steak, not a single word of criticism. He even ate the asparagus. When she presented the check, he signed it, and I saw her glance at the tip. It was still a measly 5%. But there was no deflated sigh this time. There was a small, almost imperceptible nod of her head. It was as if she was acknowledging that, while she hadn't changed him, she hadn't broken either. This pattern continued for several weeks. Lily always volunteered to serve Mr. Thorne. Each week. She'd approach him with a quiet dignity, and each week, he would find some small thing to complain about. Though his complaints became less about the food itself and more about the way it was presented or the speed of service. He was searching for a flaw, trying to get a reaction, but Lily just didn't give it to him. She would listen patiently, apologize if appropriate, and assure him she would do her best to rectify the situation. Even if the situation was completely fabricated. She never raised her voice, never showed anger, but she also never backed down. She maintained her professional distance. But there was an underlying current of resilience. One Tuesday, about 2 months into this ritual, Mr. Thorne arrived, looking even grumpier than usual. His eyes seemed to hold a deeper sadness, a weariness I hadn't noticed before. He ordered his usual, and Lily served him with her characteristic calm. This time, however, when he cut into his steak, he didn't just grumble. He sighed. A deep, heavy sigh that seemed to carry the weight of the world. He pushed his plate away, even though the steak was cooked perfectly. "Is everything all right, sir?" Lily asked, her voice softer than usual. He scoffed. "As if you'd care." "I do care, sir," she said, her voice unwavering. "Everyone deserves to have a good meal. And if something is bothering you, perhaps I can help." He looked up at her, truly looked at her, for the first time. His eyes, usually so cold, held a flicker of something else, surprise perhaps. Or even a hint of vulnerability. "It's not the food," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "It's everything. My company, my board. They're all circling like vultures. My daughter. She's decided to move across the country. I'm alone." The words hung in the air, raw and unexpected. The entire dining room seemed to hold its breath. This was an unprecedented moment. Mr. Thorne, the fearsome billionaire, was admitting to feeling vulnerable. Lily didn't say anything for a moment. She didn't offer platitudes or empty reassurances. She simply stood there, listening. Then she pulled out the chair opposite him and sat down. It was a bold move, completely against restaurant protocol. But she did it with such quiet sincerity that no one dared to intervene. "Being alone can be difficult," she said, her voice gentle. "I lost my parents a few years ago. It's a pain that never truly goes away, but you learn to carry it. And sometimes you find new connections in unexpected places." He stared at her, his mouth slightly agape. He was clearly not used to someone speaking to him like this, as an equal with genuine empathy. You're a waitress?" he finally stammered. "Yes, I am," Lily said, a small knowing smile playing on her lips. "And I'm also a human being, just like you, sir." He sat in silence for a long moment, looking at her, then down at his hands. The anger, the arrogance, it all seemed to drain out of him, leaving behind a tired old man. "What do you study?" he asked, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "Literature," she replied. "I love stories. I think everyone has one. If you just take the time to listen." They talked for almost an hour. Lily didn't pressure him to eat, didn't try to fix his problems. She just listened. She shared small anecdotes from her own life, talked about her studies, and somehow, in that elegant, hushed dining room, a connection formed between the formidable billionaire and the quiet waitress. When she finally stood up, he looked almost reluctant for her to leave. "Thank you, Lily," he said, his voice husky. "Thank you for listening." He signed the check, and this time when she returned, she looked at the tip with wide eyes. It was a generous sum, enough to cover several months of her tuition. From that day on, Mr. Thorne was a different man. He still came every Tuesday, but the air around him was no longer heavy with dread. He smiled, occasionally, even laughed, and he always asked for Lily. He still had his moments of gruffness, old habits dying hard, but they were rare, and quickly dissipated by Lily's calm demeanor and genuine warmth. He started asking her about her studies, even offered to pay for a semester of her tuition. An offer Lily politely but firmly declined, insisting she wanted to earn her way. He respected that. He also started leaving incredibly generous tips, not just for Lily, but for the entire staff. A silent apology for his past behavior. One evening, he was having dinner and Lily was serving him. I overheard him say, "Lily, I have a proposition for you. My foundation supports young artists and scholars. I'd like to offer you a full scholarship, no strings attached, for your entire university career and beyond. If you wish to pursue a master's or PhD," Lily's eyes welled up with tears, but she shook her head. "Mr. Thorne, that's incredibly generous, and I'm so touched. But I want to do this myself. The struggles, the hard work, it makes the achievements so much sweeter. But thank you, truly." He looked at her, a profound respect in his gaze. "Then how about this?" he said, a small smile playing on his lips. "My foundation also has a mentorship program for aspiring writers. Would you consider allowing me to introduce you to some people in the publishing world once you've completed your degree?" Lily's smile was radiant. Now that she said, "I would love." I watched them that night, sitting at table 7, the same table where once only fear resided. Now, there was a quiet understanding, a burgeoning friendship. The Gilded Spoon, which had once felt like a cage for our anxieties, now felt a little lighter, a little more human. Lily had done something none of us thought possible. She hadn't just survived Mr. Thorne. She had seen through his anger, his rudeness, to the lonely, hurting man beneath. She didn't back down, not from his nastiness, and not from his attempts to make her feel small. She met him with unwavering kindness and genuine empathy, and in doing so, she reminded us all that even the most formidable walls can crumble with a little bit of human connection. And sometimes, the bravest act isn't fighting back, but simply refusing to let someone else's darkness dim your own light.